Shawn, Patrick, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you.
It's a
Nice
pleasure
to be
having
here.
you on, man. I'm not going to hold it against you that you know Brandon Spears. you know, he told me that he'd love to be here today, but he's out shooting clay.
Yeah, that's what he
Guy
said.
has a great job.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
know.
who gets paid to travel around, go to these beautiful places, and then go shoot guns
Yeah.
today?
It's rough. Somebody's got to do it.
I know. The thing that I must have slept through that day. That must have been like senior skip day.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how to be smart, how to get a great job,
Yeah.
make a good living, and halfway work.
Yeah. I missed that day as well. But, yeah. No, Brandon's a good guy.
Oh, no. He's super, and I appreciate him linking us together,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I'm glad he did.
Yeah. So, you have a fantastic story. And that's what this thing is all about, folks. Coming on, telling stories, getting to learn one another. But you got a business that you run. You have a podcast, which is awesome that you're getting ready to get off the ground and start it. And so, what made you decide to get into the podcasting world?
For me, it was this. I see a problem and I want to try to fix it. And being in the construction this long and running a business, I see lots of problems that are just industry wide that we don't do things the right way, and I'm guilty of that as well. Right?
Sure.
I do it as well, out of necessity sometimes and things like that. So it's not going to be a podcast about, let me tell you how I'm doing everything right and you're not right. It's about let's talk about this. But anyway, I see the problems and I just have to find a way to try to fix it. And I started thinking about how can you do that in today's time, and it's getting the information out there and get people talking about it. And how do you do that nowadays? You do it with a podcast, social media, things like that. So it's not really my what I ever thought I would see myself doing, but I have to do something, and this is my way to try to solve some problems.
So now, but did you have a military background, correct?
I do. Correct, yes.
And so what type of background do you have?
So I did 20 years in the Marine Corps, retired in 2015, and started a business right when I retired. So glutton for punishment, I come out of there and started a business. But I was originally in the infantry for 2 years, and I realized I don't really want to do this. Is not fun because, some of it was fun, but it was just, shut up and don't ask questions and follow the man in front of you. And I am the kind of person that wants to be involved in the process, and you wasn't involved in the process there. You were just a number, So I went to this. I heard about this unit you can go to and be involved in it, and that was at the time a reconnaissance Marine, and you had to go through a pretty stringent process to get there, and indoctrination and schools and things. And I went and did that, and then, long story short, when in 2006, when they established, because originally, SOCOM, everybody knows like the SEALs, Green Berets, et cetera, right? The Marine Corps did not contribute to SOCOM because the reconnaissance Marines is who they wanted, but they said, no, we're not doing it. We're keeping them for ourselves. So in 2006, that's the height of the Iraq War and Afghanistan's going on and all this. They finally said, no, you're going to contribute. So they basically took Force Reconnaissance, made it MARSOC, and I was a part of that in the beginning and did my last 9 years in Marine Special Operations.
So you were the initial group.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. It was, we definitely had some growing pains and figuring things out along the way. And not to bore you with the details, but the way they have the team set up now, originally they were set up a different way. It was like 8 5-man teams in a platoon. Mm-hmm. And then halfway through our workup, they decided to change it to more like an ODA, sort of like a Green Beret team structure. And it was a 14-man team with a captain, team leader, and a enlisted gunny or master sergeant team chief. And me and 2 other guys were like the first team chiefs in MARSOC. We were halfway through our workup, and they came to work one day, and they said, hey, you're going to be a team chief. And so we kind of had to figure it out. We didn't even know what a team chief was, know, and we had to finish the workup and then go deploy and went to Afghanistan and showed up, and it was different because we were used to doing things like being on a big base like Kandahar or Bagram or something like that. And you just kind of go do your missions and come back, and that's it. And then we showed up and we're taking over a fob, and it's our fob, and we're running. We have workers, we have security, all local, all indigenous people, Afghans, workers, security forces, cooks, the whole 9 yards. We had to order our own food. I mean, so it was just different. We showed up. Not only are we having to run missions and do all that, we're having to run our own fob and everything. So it was new. But once we figured it out, it was good, and it's kind of progressed from there. But that we were the first ones to kind of do that model, and it was a good learning experience. Like I had a lot of made some mistakes, had to learn some things the hard way, figure out definitely like leadership and things that helped me, learn some good lessons on how to lead people and how to get things done. And so I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it was definitely at the time, not only are you in combat and doing all this, but you're having to, lead guys who are trying to figure out how this whole thing is working. And it's just, it was interesting.
So now for this unit that you are in, that you guys created, I mean, basically from the ground up.
Yeah.
Now, were you selected? Was there a tryout process? Like, did they make cuts? Like you're not good enough?
Yeah. So we were already reconnaissance Marines, so we had been selected through that process. Okay. And for us, it was, it was, you guys are going over here. It wasn't a selection for that because they just established it. We basically like came to work in the name change one day. And as time went on, later we had to do more selections and things like that. But that initial process was just change the name. You're working for a new boss now. You're working for SOCOM instead of the Marine Corps, and show up. But we were we were already pre-selected in the sense of having gone through everything we'd gone through to get where we were.
So what was it that made them make that decision? Like you said before, you got your Delta, your Green Berets, your SEALs, that they're like, all right, well, the Marines hasn't had that, but now they need it. Like,
it was because if you remember, and maybe most people probably don't, but SOCOM was the lead on the War on Terror, right?
Okay.
And so Donald Rumsfeld at the time, who was the Secretary of Defense, was like, we need more special operators. Well, the Marine Corps, you have them sitting right over here. They're just not working for SOCOM. Guess what? They're going to come work for SOCOM, and they didn't have Marine Corps pushed back. They didn't want to do it, but they didn't have a choice.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's basically what it was.
So now there was something, I don't know what it is, but there was obviously something special that happened with your unit because it came on and the story turned into a TV show.
Yeah, that was in Iraq during the invasion of Iraq, 2003, and how this came about was totally happenstance. Just worked out. But and you can never plan it this way or think it would work this way. It's pretty interesting. But we got assigned. We were in Kuwait, right, waiting to do the invasion, and we got assigned a reporter. But this reporter was from the Rolling Stone magazine. Right?
Oh boy, this could have went good or bad.
Yeah, so it could exactly. So
I used to read a lot of Rolling Stone when I was a kid growing up. Not so much anymore.
Yeah, it went pretty far off the deep end. But he was a reporter of Rolling Stone. So I'll give the guy credit. Like, he's a super nice guy. Was totally out of it. Like, he didn't know what he was getting into. Right? He shows up. He gets thrown in with us, and the invasion of Iraq was pretty. It was just running and gunning. Like, we had. We went from Kuwait into Iraq, and we were headed towards Baghdad, and we were fighting our way there, getting in fights along the way, and it was, and this guy had a camera, and he was in there with us, right? He was not in my vehicle; he was in the vehicle in front of me. I was in the second vehicle, and he did everything we did with a camera, But so we went through all this. Then he wrote a couple articles for Rolling Stone. I guess they were hits or whatever. So he writes a book eventually called Generation Kill. He wrote the book. The book, I guess, became a hit, right? And HBO bought the miniseries. They made a miniseries out of it. So bought the rights from him and made a 7-part miniseries about this whole our invasion and about the book and everything.
You didn't see that coming.
No, not at all.
So did you watch the miniseries?
I have seen it, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And what did you think?
It's very well done in the sense of a couple guys that were in my platoon worked as military advisors and
Mhm.
even played in the show.
Right.
So after they had got out, right, so they could do that. I was still in. But so it's very realistic. It's very like the gear, the vehicles, the everything. It's very spot on. You know, there was some things that were true. It's all true. Everything that happened in there is pretty much true that I saw. But some were blown more out of proportion than what they actually were. If that makes sense, you know.
Yeah. So like they made it Hollywood.
They Hollywooded it up a little bit to add emphasis to something that yes happened, but wasn't as big a deal as they made it out to be.
Right.
But it was very very realistic, and for a long time I didn't watch it, to be honest, because when it came out I was deployed. I was still in. I think I was in Afghanistan again. But then over time, I've watched, a few episodes here and there, and then eventually tied it all together. I've never actually sat down and just watched the whole thing start to finish, but I've seen episodes here and there, and so I've seen pretty much the whole thing.
So I guess that would, be interesting or weird. Even on these shows here, like I don't watch myself.
Right.
Have I seen a couple episodes yet? And really and truly, the only reason I watch is to make sure the sound is good, or I think. Did they say that? Dang it, I really meant to. I would have asked a different question. So then I just critique myself to death.
Right.
So I'm like, well, you know what? Look, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I would imagine it would be very difficult to see. Now, is there someone that actually played you?
Somebody played me. Yeah.
Did he do a good job?
Yeah, I guess so.
Just not as good looking, right?
He didn't look like me. I don't think, but he did a good job. He actually, a friend of mine reached out to me before this and said, "Hey, this guy wants to call you. You can talk to you." I said, "Sure." And he called me before they went and filmed, and he literally just, we probably talked for 2 or 3 hours, and he just asked me questions, trying to get in character, I guess, and just talk to me about growing up, everything, right? Like asking me all these questions, and he did a good job. I mean, it was good. I think my role in that show was I was a major player, but I was like just a quiet leader, you know what I mean? Like I was a team leader, and I wasn't super outspoken or I guess a huge part that you could build a HBO show off of. So I was in it a lot, but not, just I might say something profound for a minute and then it's off to something else, right? So
quiet, strong leader.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I made it. I was in it through episode 5, and then I think it's the 5th episode. I got wounded and got medevac, so I was only in the first 5 episodes. And then
really?
Yeah.
So you did? Yeah. Well, obviously you got wounded.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I got shot and got medevaced, and then the last, we were almost close to Baghdad, but not quite there. And then my assistant team leader had to take over and finish the push to Baghdad. So,
I mean, when you're sitting, I guess you guys are under fire. You're in combat, or were you surprised? Was it like an ambush? Or
it was an ambush. Yeah, they. I mean, we were getting in firefights constantly, but this one, you got to understand something too. In the show shows this, right? But this is 2003. We had one armored Humvee. The rest were like regular Humvees that we took the doors and the top off of. So my Humvee was like riding in a Jeep with the top down.
Yeah, you're in a Jeep Cherokee at the beach.
Yeah, that's what it was like.
Or Jeep Wrangler, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we pulled up to it was at night. We were trying to go into this town. We pulled up to a bridge, and as soon as I was the second vehicle, and as soon as we got there, we knew we were in trouble because they had drug like a Connex looking thing, a big.
Now, what's a
box,
Connex?
like a big metal container.
Okay, like a shipping container type?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. They had drug it across the bridge so we couldn't get across. And it was just a total pinch point there, right? And now people stacked up behind us, right? Shit. And now we're all kind of in the kill zone, and we're having to do like Austin Powers 8-point road turns to try to turn around. And they're like right over here, and they just opened up. And so we finally got turned around, and, I got hit, and we got back out of there. We got out. We had like flat tires, and my driver, my ATL was driving. He had look. I don't know if he looked at me and like leaned over to check on me or what happened, but there was a bullet hole literally right here through the windshield. Because again, the windshields were not even bulletproof, right? So it's right through. So if whatever he was looking at or whatever he was doing, it saved his life, because it was right. I mean, I got a picture of it with him like he's sitting in the steering, holding the steering wheel, and the bullet holes right through the windshield. Would have hit him right in the head. So it was just mass chaos, and they had us, but they got theirs. I mean, they didn't. They had a bad day.
They had a bad day.
Yeah, they had a bad day.
Damn.
So,
I mean, I cannot imagine. Number one, you get that. I'm imagining, trying to visualize you guys going in there, and all of a sudden you see that, and you realize like that's the that's shit moment.
Yeah, you're done.
And you're like, how are we going to get out of this? And then I cannot even imagine what goes through your mind. Like when you were shot, did you feel it, or was it you just?
I felt. Yeah, it was real hot, very hot. Hot rounds, bullets are hot, and it was. You felt the impact, and it was very, very hot, and it's dark, and you can't tell how bad. You can't really tell what's going on. So we were trained to just I just put a tourniquet on, and kept fighting.
Fighting.
And then we got back. I didn't want to leave. Of course, I wanted to stay, but I would have been a liability. I mean, I couldn't walk at that point. I couldn't. I couldn't stay. So they medevaced me. But
it's interesting you say that. You want to, because I was sitting here thinking in my mind, like I'm trying to put myself in the situation. Like if I'm shot and I'm sitting there with my brothers and we're literally saving each other's life. With every round that you fire. Like, is there a sense of like, you can't stay because, like you said, you're a liability. But is there like a sense of, I don't know, guilt's probably the wrong word.
No, absolutely. I mean, I got medevac. It took a while to get back. I had a couple surgeries. I went to like a field hospital in Iraq somewhere, and like in tents. And then from there, I went to Kuwait. I had a surgery in Kuwait in like a little nicer field hospital, but still a field hospital. And then from there, I went to some people go to Germany. I went to Spain for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I went Rota, Spain. And then from Spain, I went to, I think, Bethesda. And then from Bethesda, I was stationed in California at the time, so we flew. So every one of these, there's a couple days stop along the way,
Sure.
So it took a while to get back. And you're not hearing, you don't know what's going on. You don't know, you just left your guys, right? Like you don't know.
So there's no updates? There's no.
No, I mean, you don't know. It was the guilt is a good statement because you felt guilty and you felt like you left them hanging, but you had no choice.
Like
right?
you almost felt like you abandoned them.
Right, but you didn't. It's not like I had a choice in the matter, but
Right.
Definitely you had that. That's some of that was, as far as, being shot. No, that was not the big deal. The big deal was having to leave them, and feeling that way. Definitely felt guilty about it.
That's interesting because I've never really thought about it, but I just assume like if you are separated, like you got to go back, you have to have surgery. You're like you would get updates of like, hey, this is what happened. The guys are here.
The whole unit's there, so nobody's there. I mean, you can watch the news, but they're not talking about your guys. They're just talking about the general what's going on in Iraq or whatever.
Right,
so,
and who knows what the news what you're getting's some of the story, all the story, half the story, or whatnot. But so all right, so you're back. You've had some surgeries, and then I guess eventually they're like, all right, you're good. So now you can go back.
Yeah. So I went. I went from there to I was there. I stayed in my unit for a little while, right, and everybody came home, and I was still there for a while, but I was still somewhat recovering. I mean, I wasn't 100%, and I got an opportunity to go be an instructor at the school you go to do what we did, right, and it was a pretty tough school, and so it was in Virginia Beach, so I didn't really know if I wanted to go, to be honest, but I just made a phone call just to ask if they needed anybody. Next thing you know, I was getting orders, but it was fine. It worked out. So I went to Virginia Beach and was an instructor for 3 years there. Fully recovered there because I recovered pretty fast there. It's very physically demanding school, and as an instructor, even you're running constantly, doing ruck runs, doing this, walking them on patrols, doing all kinds of stuff, right? And so I was there 3 years and then left there and went back to that. I went from there to the Camp Lejeune again. Okay. And then that's when I went to MARSOC started, and I was in the beginning of MARSOC.
Wow.
So,
so did you ever? Are you still in contact or communication with your initial unit there that you were with?
Yeah, I was with a guy this weekend that was played himself in the show, Rudy Reyes. He's pretty I guess, famous nowadays, especially in the veteran community. He's pretty famous, and everybody knows who he is. And he played himself in Generation Kill, right? Oh. He was one of those military advisors, and he played himself. and he's been in a few other things, and now he has a show on Fox, regular Fox, like whatever channel that is. I think it comes on. I think the next one, he's leaving in about a week to go back and shoot the next episode, but it's called Special Forces World Toughest Test. They take like celebrities and they run them through the gauntlet for about 10 days and put them through like a selection. Yeah, he's the one American. Well, there's two Americans. One's a SEAL and him, and then there's two British guys. And so, yeah. So
I've seen the commercials for it, but I never really watched it.
Yeah.
I'm interested in watching it. So there's a friend of ours, guy we know, who is retired from SEALs, and he has helped. I don't think the team, the show's on anymore, a SEAL team on CBS.
Oh, yeah.
But he was a producer, and he, was making sure that everything was how it was supposed to be. And I think also he was using former military guys as some actors and extras and giving them an opportunity. And so that was really cool of him to do that. But also, I think it's important too that if you're going to, in my opinion, if you're going to recreate something, especially something as important as what our military guys do, you need to have someone there to make it as factual and actual as possible. I don't need all the Hollywood stuff. I mean, obviously there got to be some drama, of course, that they have to jazz up a little bit. But I'll never forget, what was the movie? Was it Tears of the Sun? No, that wasn't it. Mel Gibson, I think, was in it, but there was a guy there. He was still alive, and he was a former military general. We Were Soldiers Once? Yes. Yeah. And he made, I'll never forget this interview with him. I'm going to call it pampas grass, but that's not right. And they were like, okay, he's like, we need more pampas grass. And they're like, well, okay, but how is it? He said, I said you need more pampas grass. Because that's the way it was. And I think that's just the way it should be. You should be as true to the story, the truth as possible. So I think that's a good idea. Plus, it's a good outlet for guys who are coming back. Give them an outlet, get to be with their brothers and stuff like that, and share stories and stuff.
Yeah, Rudy's doing good. He came and visited, and we went to the. That's why Brandon was talking about the Kenny Chesney. We went to the Zach Brown Kenny Chesney concert in Panther Stadium. But Rudy knows Zach Brown; they're friends.
Okay.
So we got to go hang out with the band and go backstage and do the whole 9 yards. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So what was that experience like?
What's that? Going
backstage and seeing a big star
amazing,
like Kenny Chesney and Zach Brown.
Yeah, it's we got to go hang out with Zach and them, and I've done that twice now. I did it once out at Rudy's place. He lives in Dallas, and they're so Zach Brown band's so cool, man. They're just they're just guys standing around. They were outside the bus playing with their kids and stuff, and they're about to go play for 50,000 people or whatever. I mean, cool? So cool, so laid back. And then to get to just we watched them from the pit because it's a little better sound. Yeah. And I'd seen them backstage before. But then we watched Kenny Chesney from standing on the stage, stage right, standing there the whole time. And you look out and there's I don't know how many people, 50,000 or whatever, just everywhere, right? And the skyscrapers in the background. And it's pretty cool. You're like, wow, man, this is these people get to do this, every weekend or whatever. Yep. And I don't think it would ever get old, with that many people singing along to your songs.
Wouldn't that be I get chill bumps just thinking about it. If you were on a stage and you had 50,000 people screaming and singing back to you something that you wrote.
Yeah,
that you're performing. What a rush that would be.
Yeah, that would be crazy. But
then also you get to see yourself on screen too, for doing something that not a lot of people on planet Earth can do as well. So don't sell yourself short. You're a rock star.
Yeah. Well, it's it was pretty cool to do and a good experience. And Rudy got to come do that. I got to take my wife this time, so that was we had a blast.
So a very good friend of ours, and he lives here. He does the sound for Morgan Wallen.
Oh yeah.
And so Morgan's doing all these stadium tours, and he's been with Kid Rock. He was his number one guy for a long time, and Green Day and Tool and all the you name it. He's been with all these A-list bands, and even still for him when he's at Wrigley Field or Fenway and he's looking out, he'll send us a picture, and it's just like, God, man, you were sitting there. You're on top of the world.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's I I don't think it would get old, but I'm sure it does at times. But
I don't think the work would get old. And like I've talked to him, and in my day job, I travel a lot for work. It's the travel.
Yeah.
That's what gets old.
Yep.
If I never had to board an airplane again,
Yeah.
unless I'm taking my family somewhere, then I'll be all right.
Yeah, I hear you.
It just and like you're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
Traveling.
Yep.
I want to travel because I want to.
Yeah.
Not because I have to.
Right.
There's a difference.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. So you transitioned out, and now you started a concrete company. So did you take a lot of what you learned from the military and implemented it into your business?
I definitely try to. Again, I'm not perfect at it, right? And I made a lot of mistakes along the way as well. But I think my leadership experience and things is what we need. And probably not just construction. There's probably a lot of industries, right? But It's just lacking. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I'm General Patton over here. I'm just saying, like, compared to the way they do things and the way people, they're not taught any leadership. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it's so I take a lot of that. I think the negative part of that is, like, I was used to working with, and I work with some great guys. Don't get me wrong. They're awesome, right? But I was used to working with guys that had worked hard. They had to pay a price to get where they were. They had to try really, really hard and make a lot of sacrifices to get where they were. And so they didn't want to you were in a team, and that team was tight knit, and you didn't want to let your buddy down. Even if you didn't do it, we all joined because of, God and country and everything. And so did I, right? But over time, that becomes, I just don't want to let the guys to my left and right down.
Right.
When you're in the middle of a firefight, it's not about God and country anymore. No. It's about, I don't want to let this guy down or let him down or whatever, right? And that, we don't have that here. And it's not, we're civilians now, right? I mean, it's hard to find that, right? So expecting it to be like that or thinking you can even get it to that point has been a struggle, on my part. So
I'm just imagining you got a guy coming in talking to you. You're the team lead, right?
Yeah.
Just like you are in your job, and he's bitching and complaining about how terrible of a day or whatever's going on, and like you have to be sitting there going, you have no idea, like what a bad day is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you have to put those things into perspective.
Yeah.
There's a saying. What is it? The worst thing that happened to you today is the worst thing that's happened to you today, like
right.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at things in perspective, right? Yes. Did you have a shitty day at work? Okay, yeah. Did a project not go like it was supposed to? But guess what? You get to come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Nobody died today.
Right.
Yeah.
When
I transitioned from the emergency department into what I'm doing now, if I made a mistake there, somebody could die.
Yeah.
And people do die.
Yep.
In the hospital every day. There's medical error happens. A couple 100,000 people die a year from that.
Yep.
If I make a bad decision or I mess up at my job, nobody's dying.
Right.
Just
Yep.
Maybe I just didn't send the right email.
It definitely
okay.
is a different perspective.
For sure.
But I try to put the same amount of, and I do, I think, put the same amount of passion and I guess passion's the right word into what I do now as I did then, even though the stakes are different. Sure. But, that's just how I am. If I'm doing something, I'm all in. I'm giving 100%.
But don't you think too, by you leading by that example, the people underneath you follow that because they see your passion?
I do,
and your dedication.
I think that a lot of things I do wrong, but one thing I do right is like I'm a pretty good leader, and I can get people to follow me, and want to follow me, right? And not by who doing them either, by being a good leader, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty good at that. And I think I credit all that to my time in the Marine Corps and some of the crazy struggles and different scenarios. Like example B, like I got put with a team leader that used to be enlisted together, and he was a friend of mine, right? Mm-hmm. And they thought, oh, this will be a good pair. But we butted heads like crazy, right? Like he wanted to do certain things a certain way, and I wanted to do them another, and it was just like, and we're still friends, but it was a struggle. And then I got the team who saw what he was doing and didn't want to back him, but he's the team leader, right? And I felt like, I was like Hercules holding pillars. I had the team on one side and him on the other, and I'm in the middle trying to hold it all together. And those were struggles that it was not fun. And you're in combat and you're doing missions and and
So how does that work itself out?
It just, what I did? It's funny story real quick. Is guys were completely getting kind of fed up, right? And I called a meeting with all the team. I said, let's go to this hut over here and meet me here at 3:00 or whatever. And so I go in. I had a notebook, pen. I'm like, all right, what's your complaints? Let me hear them, right? Because they're valid. A lot of them are valid complaints, right? Like I get it. So they're doing it, and I'm writing them down as quick as I can, shorthand, and I'm flipping the page, writing more down, like, and they're just coming at me with this complaint, that complaint, this problem, and that problem. And we got done finally, and they were like, I was like, everybody good? You done? They're like, yeah. I said, all right. All right, got a question. What are we going to do to solve this? What are we going to do to fix this? Mm-hmm. And their solution was, we're going to go to the company commander, who was a major, and say, hey, he sucks, and we want to get him fired, and we want the XO to come be our team leader. And I said, that's your plan? And they're like, yeah. And I said, that's not going to work. You know why? Because we're still doing good as a team.
Right.
We're doing awesome, right? The only way to get him fired is to suck. Our company commander doesn't care about our little problems here. He's got other problems to worry about, right? He doesn't want to hear it. Is the team doing good? We are. Drive on.
Right. March on.
Yeah. And they were like, well, we think we can get it. I was like, it's not going to work. And finally they come to an agreement that, yeah, that was a dumb idea. And I said, if you're ready to suck, we can get him fired. But I'm not ready to suck, and I don't think you are.
Yeah, nobody wants to suck.
They wasn't ready, of course. And they're like, nope. And I said, all right, so let's go back to work. I just balled the stuff up, threw it in the trash. Let's go. And the fact that I let them at least get it off their chest and listen to them, and try to come up with a solution, even though there wasn't one, it went a long way, And so from there on out, didn't have much problem. Everybody knew. It was like, well, we got to do it. Let's do it. And everybody kind of came together, and it was – I don't even know how I came up with that. At the time, I was like, I just need to let them – I need to hear them out, right? And
but I think that's just an innate leadership skill that some people are born with and some people aren't.
Yeah.
Some people are true born leaders, and some think they are, but they're really not.
Yeah.
That may be okay. But like you just giving the guys an opportunity just to get that off their chest and wrote it all down. It's like, all right, what's the solution? And you let them think their way through it and realize that's a really bad idea.
Yeah.
They had to have gained an immense amount, and obviously it did respect from them.
It did, I think. And I think I agree with you. Some people were born leaders. I don't know if I was or not, but I also think it can be learned. It's like anything else. There's somebody some guys are born natural athletes and can play football, right?
Sure.
Now I can go learn to play football, and I can work out, and I can do all that, and I can become a pretty decent football player.
Sure.
I'm never going to be as good as that guy because he was just born with the natural talent, right?
Sure.
But I can still be a pretty decent football player, right? I think it's the same thing in leadership. It can be a learned trait. Yes, some are born with some traits that help with that, right? And are already there or ahead of the game. But others can learn it as well.
Sure.
They might not be, again, general pattern, right? But they're going to be a pretty good leader.
I think there's some people too that are born with the ability to read people, and they can read a room.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can walk into a room. What is it? My wife will say sometimes, read the room, stupid.
Yeah.
And you can check the vibe out. But there's also people who cannot read a room.
Yeah.
They're not people persons, and they're not effective communicators.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the other thing is, like, I guess me being I'm from Lincolnton originally, not far from here, and I'm with guys who are from all over the country, right? And to them, I'm like, I'm a redneck from North Carolina, right? Like,
well, that's everybody,
and it's probably true. I am, but ain't
nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm proud of it, but I'm definitely not like a great communicator or anything, but I think but I earned their respect. I didn't. You can't just start making demands and not earn the ability to do that, right? Like you have to I quote, like, I know how this I knew this concept, but I never really could put it into words until I heard Jocko say it one time this way, right? He said, it's like a checking account, right? You make deposits and then you make withdrawals, right? And you have to, if you're just making withdrawals, you're going in the hole, right? You're overdrafting, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to run out of money real quick. You have to make deposits, leadership deposits along the way. And then when it comes time to make a withdrawal, then you can make that withdrawal and you have money to do it with, right?
Right.
And I knew that concept, but the way he said it, it made sense to me. Like, well, we all know what deposits and withdrawals are, right? And it makes sense. So, but I think I'd made a lot of deposits with them along the way. That I could make withdrawals from time to time, and so I think that all goes a long way. I think a lot of people get in leadership positions and they want to just withdraw. They think, I'm a leader now, so I don't have to do anything, right?
Constantly.
And I think it's the opposite. I think when you're a leader, you got to do more, right?
Well, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and some people don't see it that way, right? And they're never going to be. They're not going to be good leaders because they're not even learning the right traits to do it. They're using their position to benefit themselves instead of the other way around.
Instead of the team, 100%. People, you see it too now that, well, you probably saw it too in the military, some people climbing the ranks and they were just doing it for themselves.
Yep. It's actually pretty bad in there some places, In my unit, not as bad because rank didn't really matter. Rank was what you got paid, but it was more about reputation and skill set, and like what you could do. Reputation's huge because it takes you years to build it, and then you can ruin it like that, right?
Right.
So in our unit, reputation was everything.
Well, it's just like in the field of business, your reputation. My company's been around 6 years, and we have a fantastic reputation in the community. Yeah. And reputation is everything. That's my phone number on the truck. That's my phone number on the car. You call me. It's just, same with you. So when you transition, what's the name of your business again?
The Raider Company.
The Raider Company. Yep. Now, how did you come up with the name The Raider Company?
Okay, good question. So, my unit was originally called MARSOC, Marine Special Operations Command, and eventually the lineage is traced back to, and so was the reconnaissance community, traced back to the Marine Raiders of World War II.
Okay.
And so we always trace our lineage back to there. There's this tradition where we give paddles to guys that are leaving if they raid it, right? And that you never know if the story's true or not, but the story is that it went back to the Marine Raiders, and they would, when a guy was leaving, because they paddle boats back then, right? So they would take his paddle, decorate it a little bit, and give it to him, right?
That's cool. So
it's grown into like taking wood and taking a board and cutting it out of a board and making, it's grown pretty crazy. But so everything, when I was coming up with a name, everything kept going back to some kind of raider or something. That was just my lineage, my heritage, right? It goes, and then the MARSOC is now called Marine Raiders. So just like a SEAL, right, or a Green Beret, we're called Raiders. So the Raider Company, and the emblem is a little bit of a. If you know what it is and you see it, you'd be like, "Oh, I know what that is." But if you don't, it just looks like an emblem. But it's the shape of the Raider logo, and got some hints of that.
Now, did you design the logo yourself?
I did. Yeah.
That's cool.
Just I robbed pieces of pictures of this.
Hey man, I rob things all the time.
Yeah.
I borrow.
Yeah.
I primarily borrow.
Yeah, but so that's where it came from.
So the Raider Company.
Yep.
I want to get back to the paddle in a minute, but the Raider Company. So what is it you guys specialize in?
We do concrete, commercial concrete more than anything. We everything from footings, slabs, walls, anything concrete on a commercial or industrial or anything like that job, we do it. Some sidewalks, whatever. We don't do as much of that, but we do. We can. It's just that we try to just do the building and get out of there. But mostly like everything to do with the building.
Small, big jobs, or
it's big to me, but I mean, compared to other companies, it probably wouldn't be big. But we do, 30, 40,000 square foot buildings sometimes, down to like a 5,000 square foot building. Gotcha. It just depends. But so yeah, I mean, it's.
So what in the world took you from the Marines to concrete? That seems like
it is. So I did it when I was graduated high school. I'd already signed up for the Marine Corps, and I went to work for Wayne Brothers, who Brandon worked for, right?
Yeah.
And they were working in my hometown, and I went to work for them just to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And got to experience that then. I didn't leave till November. The guy I was working for, John Ashworth, is still there at Wayne Brothers. He was my superintendent. He knew I was going in the Marine Corps. I'd already signed up. But so my full intention was to go in the Marine Corps, do 4 years, and get out and go back to work. I decided that's what I wanted to do, right? So I did that. I went and did 4 years. I was infantry, then I went to recon, and then I got out. I said, I'm getting out. I'm going back in construction.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to work. Went back to work for John at Wayne Brothers and did that for about 3 more years. And I was 25 and still single, and I got out, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I was staying in touch with my buddies, and they were telling me, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I kind of missed it,
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up everybody thought I was crazy, and I probably was, but I just got a wild hair, and I was like, I'm going back in. And so.
Oh, wow. So you came out and went back in.
I went back in, yeah.
You are a little crazy.
I am a little crazy.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah. And I went back in and left my job, and left everybody, nobody even knew I was even thinking about it until I just decided, until I was like already signed up pretty much, and I just went and told them. And, so anyway, go back in. And so that was all I know. I either know, the Marine Corps or concrete pretty much. And I didn't want to do the Marine Corps anymore. And I wanted, to be honest, like some people get out, and there's nothing wrong with this, right? I'm not criticizing anybody for doing it, but they get out and they stay around the base and they work on base in some capacity. Or there's a ton of jobs in MARSOC where I could have got out and went to work teaching something, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
right then, right? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get out and I wanted to cut away, and I just want to shift gears to the next chapter, right? And so I got kind of the opportunity to start this business, not knowing what I was getting into. Thought I did, right? But I didn't. And so I just jumped and did it. And here we are, almost 9 years later, and still going.
And still going. Good for you, man. That's awesome that you wanted to break away and do your own thing.
I did. It's a little scary, and a lot of people don't want to do it, but I think more should. I really do. I think more veterans should do that, because if you have the skills to do it,
oh gosh, yeah.
It's just people. It's that stepping out of that comfort zone.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're comfortable here, and it's like, I got to transition. I got to get out. That's already uncomfortable, and now I'm going to go move away and start something completely different. It's a little uncomfortable. It's a little scary, right?
Yeah.
But so people tend to just, I'll just stay and do this because it's comfortable. And I was like, nah, I'm moving on, and so I did. And I think more, I would like to encourage more people to do stuff like that. Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult. It's not an easy road, but everybody, if you're, I'm lumping all veterans. Obviously, there's good and bad veterans like everybody else, right? But I mean, if you have those skill sets that you learn in the military, you could go do that and be successful,
I'm going to, off camera, you may know and may know the organization, but I'm going to see if, and we'll get you hooked up.
Okay.
There's a good contact if you don't have it already for some stuff I think will help you and help them, help others, and veterans. That's what they do. So speaking of shifting gears, you military, now you got your own business, that's up and going. So now you're jumping into the world of podcasting.
Right.
So what is the concept of what you're looking to do in your show? It's not up and running yet, right?
It's not. Yeah.
Okay.
We went to shoot some episodes, and we had some technical malfunctions, not technical, vehicle malfunction. A guy couldn't get here. His transmission went out. So we put a pause and we rescheduled. But so the concept is this. Like I said earlier, I see problems, in the industry as a whole. We try to do better with it, but we're just a small little company that's trying to, and we're not perfect at it. I mean, we do things wrong all the time. So I see this how we do things, and for example, right? I'll give you an example. We take a guy. We say, I need a new foreman, right? I look around the room and I go, he's my best carpenter. I'm going to make him my foreman, but he's never been in charge of anything. Right? He's never had leadership experience. He's not been put in charge of people. He's a good carpenter, but he don't know how to lead. Right? And I say, you're my foreman now. Well, he's going to say, yeah, okay, because he's probably getting more money.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, he's like, okay, sure. But he don't know what he's doing. Right? He gets it. He gets started. He's like, man, what? when I was a young buck, start coming up, how did they lead me? Well, they yelled at me and cussed me out.
That's
so
right.
I'll just yell at everybody and cuss them out, right?
Right.
Well, it's not 1980 anymore. You just can't do that nowadays,
Right.
And next thing you know, people are quitting, leaving, whatever, and they're like, what's going on? Well, you didn't prepare him to be a leader
Correct.
at all, right? And you just threw him to the wolves. I've done it. I did it. I did the same thing. I did it to a guy out of necessity. Had a job going. Leader left. He was there. Hey, man, can you finish? And we didn't have much more to go. Can you finish this up? Out of necessity. He didn't really want to do it, but he did it because I asked him to, right? And he messed it up big time, right? Had people wanting to leave. Ugh. Probably cost me a bunch of money because he was messing things up. Like, and he ended up leaving, and I know better, but I did it, right?
Right.
So let's do better with that, right? So an example of that would be in the Marine Corps. So the point of the podcast is to talk about things like that, and then to use some of my experiences to weave back and forth between like my Marine Corps experience and my construction experience, and try to give some lessons or ways forward to make things better. Like, for example, that one. Why don't we, in the Marine Corps, you're never in charge directly of more than like 3 to 5 people, right?
Oh, really?
A general is in charge of thousands, right?
Right.
A division commander, got thousands of people under him. But really, he's directly leads 4 regimental commanders, 4 colonels, right? Those 4 colonels have 4 lieutenant colonels underneath them.
Right.
Right. Those 4 lieutenant colonels have 4 captains under them as company commanders.
So it all breaks down.
So it breaks down, right? All the way down to the squad level, to where a squad, a Marine Corps rifle squad, which is what everything's based off of in the Marine Corps, is 13 men. You got a squad leader and 3 4-man fire teams, and each fire team has a fire team leader. So you got a fire team leader and 3 guys, right?
That's it.
And he's at the lowest level possible, and he's starting to learn leadership, right? And he's at a level where it's not catastrophic if he messes it up.
Mm-hmm.
He's making mistakes. He's learning. He's going up through the ranks, and maybe he becomes squad leader next, right? Well, he's got some leadership experience already. Now he's getting more as a squad leader and on up the chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not waiting until he's a gunny and saying, I need you to be a platoon sergeant. Bam, you're a platoon sergeant, right? That's what we do in construction, right? We do that.
Right.
So why don't we do something like that in our industry, to where we have smaller teams, if you will, call them whatever you want to call them, crews, teams, whatever, broken down smaller, to where that guy's starting to get leadership experience at the lowest level possible. So when he becomes a superintendent or whatever, right, he's already had leadership experience up through the ranks. And also, not to go down a tangent, but if you got a superintendent on a job and he's got 50 people under him, you think he knows what's going on with those 50 people?
Not a clue.
He has no idea, right?
No.
If you got a guy that's in charge of 3 or 4, he knows what's going on with his people, right? Or he should. He knows that, little Johnny's wife's at home packing her stuff, and that's why little Johnny's head ain't in the game today, right? Or he showed up late or whatever. And the superintendent's like, write him up. And now you writing him up, sending him home for 2 days, and little Johnny's, already
he's spiraling.
He's out. He's done, right? He's losing his mind.
Yep.
Instead, you can handle it a different way, because you're intimately aware of things that are going on with your people, and you're learning how to lead, right? So it just all makes sense. We don't do it that way, and that's just one example. There's many, right? But that's the kind of things I want to talk about and weave my military experience into my construction experience. And I'm not naive enough to think that it's going to change things overnight, or maybe at all, right? But if you don't talk about it, I want to make it to where if you're not doing things like that, you're the minority, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you are doing that, you're the big time minority, right? Nobody's doing it. I want to get people's minds changed to where, that sounds good. That makes sense. I want to do things that way, to where now you got some other company that's not doing it. People are looking at them going, why are you not doing this?
Right.
Right.
And it will happen. Even this little podcast here, we reached up probably over 40 some thousand people so far. Yeah. And I've had folks reach out. I had a guy on who was a New York Times bestseller. He's the first person to ever run the Sahara Desert. Yeah. He was a recovering addict. And someone listened to that podcast and they went to rehab the next day.
Right.
I had somebody reach out to me just last week saying that the actual podcast, man, it lifted them up that day. They were having a real crappy day. Yeah. And then after what, we did, turn his whole day around. And it's little stuff like that. But you're going to have someone that listens, and they're going to pick up a little nugget here and there that they're going to implement into what their business is. And it's going to, I mean, who would have ever thought a guy like Jocko would have the successful podcast that he does? If you see a picture of someone's watch,
4:30
at 4:30 in the morning, and think about the influence he has. I got up this morning at 4:30.
Yeah.
Okay, I went downstairs. I did invoices.
Yeah.
I checked my other work email, made sure everything was okay. I did 30 minutes of sauna, took a shower, got the kids' lunch ready, and all that sort of stuff. But I woke up and I've already had a good full day before everybody else. And it makes you feel a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
You've already started the day, and I was talking to a buddy of mine. He got up at 8:30 this morning, and I was like, "Dude, I've been up 4 hours." And he's like, "What in the why?"
Yeah.
Well, also there's only so much time in a day.
Right.
And there's so many things you have to get done. As a husband, as a father, as a business owner, and also as an employee, you got to get all these things done. But I think you're gonna see people that are definitely going to tune in, and they're gonna take some things from it. Do you have a name for it yet?
I believe I'm going to go with blueprints and battlefields, and the reason for that is because, like I said, we're talking about construction.
Yep.
Blueprints, right?
Sure.
And weaving in my Marine Corps experience. I had quite a few other names on the table, but I believe we're going to go with that one just because, to me, it just makes sense. It ties it in,
Absolutely.
But the other thing is, even if you're not in the construction industry, there's things you can take from the same concept.
100%.
And even in life in general, some of it will be, But
I like that concept too. You have a leader, a manager, a supervisor, a foreman. He's got 2, 3, 4 guys underneath him. He knows what's going on.
Yep.
When you put somebody up top and they have a dozen, 2, they don't know what's going on because they don't have that intimate engagement to their people. They don't have a pulse of what's going on.
And they can't. And they also, it affects how they got other duties of actually running the job, right?
100%.
And it's like, no, I'm dealing with little Johnny because he was late this morning or whatever. No, let your other people deal with little Johnny, and you worry about the success of the job.
Exactly. So a couple rapid fire questions for you. All right.
Yep.
So who was the best soldier you ever served with?
That's a good one. Man,
hands down, bar none.
Like, I'm gonna throw a name out. This is off the top of my head, and then there was this Marine. He was his First Sergeant Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Called him Horsehead because he had a big old head, right?
Horsehead.
Yeah, but just one. He was in my younger days and earlier in my career was a big impact on me, and he got killed in Iraq in 2003, right? So I got to say, I think if he would have not got killed, it would have been, he would have had even more. He had a huge impact in the time we had, right? And if he wouldn't have, it would have had an even bigger one, right? He's just, and there's so many. I'm pulling that name, pulling that name out. But yeah, he was just he was in a position, he had positional authority, right? But he didn't use that position. He led you, right? He was doing everything he was doing. He was teaching. I think I probably learned a lot about leadership and how to be a leader from him,
Right.
So yeah, just an amazing guy. But I worked with so many, man. It's the caliber of people I worked with there, when you got that kind of people that you always have the 10% no matter what. They're kind of like, yeah, right.
Right.
And maybe sometimes I fell in that 10%. I don't know. But the caliber of people I worked with, they were all just amazing. Again, because they all wanted to be there, right? They all worked hard to get there. And we had the cream of the crop, man. But First Sergeant Smith, just an amazing human being. It's a shame he got killed, but yeah, I would say him. Now,
if you were, what's the one book you would recommend everyone to read? If you had to pick one book.
Generation Kill. No.
That's a great plug, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's.
Or a book that has stuck with you.
Yeah. This might be morbid or sound morbid, but there's On Killing. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's Dave Grossman. It's about the psychological aspects of warfare and how it affects human beings in the long run, and all these kind of things. I just think there's so many things you can learn, even if you're not necessarily interested in combat or what. It's not, but the way he breaks down the kind of the human psyche and how we all think about things and how it works. It's very interesting, and he has some other books that follow on from that, but On Killing is the first one. And
On Killing,
yeah.
That was one thing I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about we won't get into it. Maybe you'll come back sometime. We can dive into that sort of stuff. But just what's it like walking around when you're not in combat, knowing that you took a life? What's that weight feel on someone?
Yeah, I've had that question before, and it's it's definitely so. I think everybody deals with it in different ways, right? And,
sure.
But you always have to find a way to deal with it, because at the time you don't really even think about it because you're in the heat of the moment, right?
Yep.
You're on to the next one, right? But later, you lay down and close your eyes, and that guy he definitely had a mother, right?
Of course.
And a father. He had maybe a wife, maybe kids. I don't know, but
sure.
And you have to find a way to deal with that, and I think that's part of some people's problems is they never find a way to deal with it, and they kind of go off the deep end.
100%.
And the way I've dealt with it, to be honest, is just been, what, that guy was going to do that to me. And I was, and even not even about me, but more about I was protecting my guys to the left and right. Like I said earlier, it becomes more about them, right?
Of course.
And maybe that's a fallacy I've built up in my mind. I don't know, but it works for me.
Well, it seems to be a positive, constructive way to deal with it, as opposed to something that just is totally destructive.
Right.
And what's the name of the book again?
On Killing.
On Killing.
Yep.
All right. Best album of all time.
Ooh, man. All time.
For you. You can say Boy George. It's fine.
Boy George.
No judgment.
Boy George. Culture Club.
Yeah.
But, man.
Or if there's one album that you're like, if I'm stuck on an island somewhere, this is the one album.
That one. Probably just because they're such good musicians and sort of sing about things that I can relate to is the guys I was just with the Zach Brown Band.
Okay.
Their first one, The Foundation. Like that one had chicken fried on it and all that. And those, they've had quite a few good ones. But off the top of my head, I would probably say if I had to listen to one just over and over again, like it'd probably be that.
Sweet. All right, and last question: if you had to sit down, if you could choose two people to sit down and have dinner with, dead or alive, who would they be?
Oh, man. Jesus.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some questions.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And I
know it's a tough one.
Dead or alive, huh? This one might sound odd, but no, I'm not going to say him.
Hey, man, it's your dinner.
Well, I was going to say Donald Trump because he's just interesting, right? Like,
of course.
The guy's he's out there, but like I know some people love him, some people hate him or whatever, but he would be an interesting dinner.
Look, if you like the guy, you hate the guy, you can't say he's not interesting.
Yeah.
And, just to ask him questions and just to see what he's going to say.
And if you had dinner with him and Jesus at the same time, and he could tell Jesus how much better he was than Jesus.
I was going to do a terrible Donald Trump impression. I'll do it anyway. Do you know the difference between Jesus and Donald Trump? This is a joke. Jesus doesn't think he's Donald Trump.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I could probably think of a lot more in given time, over time. But that was Time to get up.
That's time to go.
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, I think it'd be fascinating to interview any former president.
Yeah.
Just to find out, what do you know about the aliens?
Yeah.
Is it real?
Yeah,
It's because they can't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the missile codes? Are they really in your jacket pocket? Like
Yeah.
all the shit that they know that they can't tell
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
What's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. You might not want to know when you get done.
You might not want to know.
Yeah.
Also, if you met somebody that famous, because he was obviously famous before he was the president, might be one of those people, or just in general, you don't want to meet. I don't want to say your hero or superstar because you're going to you'll be let down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. All right, so you, Trump, and Jesus.
Yeah,
I think this will be a hell of a conversation.
That'd be a good dinner right there.
I think so.
At Mar-a-Lago, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It might be halfway through that. Hey, Jesus, you might want to turn that water into wine.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Shawn, man, I appreciate you coming on. Good luck with the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
When you do launch it, let me know. We'll do a post about it.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to check out the Raider Company, how can they find you?
Just theraidercompany.com.
Okay.
A little bit of that same stuff. It talks about a little bit of my story and talks about a little bit of Generation Kill.
Yeah.
I let somebody talk me into putting that on the website, and it's actually been they were right and I was wrong.
Right.
So, but yeah, it talks about a little bit on there in our company and what we do and everything. So www.theraidercompany, all spelled out, .com.
Sweet. And also either read the book Generation Kill or check out the series that I think you can see on HBO or HBO Max.
Yeah, HBO Max, yep.
Sweet. Yep. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
See you, everybody.